And welcome back to another episode of the Office Dynasty League podcast. I'm here as your host, as always, John Yaney.
Jonathan
Yaney. Jonathan J. Yaney. I'll let you guess what the J stands for. But I'm here as always with my co-host, Mac White. Say hi to the people, Mac.
Hello, people.
Hello.
Also, the J is Jeroboam, yes?
It is not. But it is not Jeroboam. Welcome to a very special episode because not only is this our first off-season podcast episode, this is our one and first and maybe only episode in the car. Mac and I are driving to trivia together, so we are doing an in-the-car episode, in case any of you are curious if we are in the car. The person in front of me is already confused.
Also, I've heard most of you listen to the podcast while you're in the car.
So
now
hey,
we've gone full circle.
Just imagine Mac and I are in the back seat with you. So, welcome back to another episode of the Office Dynasty League podcast. In the car. We are going to recap today the semifinals and the finals. I don't know if any of you remember, but the last time we had an episode, we were going into the semifinals. I was full of hope. I had bet on myself to win. Mac had bet on me to win. Mac was full of hope. He had bet on himself to win. I had bet on Mac to win. And loyal listeners, we went 0 for 4. We did not win a single one of those matchups. Congratulations to Ethan for winning the semifinal matchup. And a little spoiler alert, congratulations to Will on not only his semifinals win, but becoming our 2025 Office Dynasty League champion. Everyone, big round of applause for Will.
Very well earned. He went through the gauntlet he went through to get there.
Yeah.
Quite impressive. And he got his pick back. It's insane.
He did. He jumped through hoops to get that pick back, thinking he'd be picking like 5th or 6th. Ends up picking 10th. So the ultimate irony here is he has now gone through hell and high water to get the 10th pick twice, and neither of them ended up being good decisions.
One of them got him a title, technically, sort of.
Jonathan Brooks did not get him a title.
The second one, he ended up with a title.
That's true. That's true.
Jonathan Brooks did not get him a title. You are correct.
But congratulations, Will. Well done. Just to recap the semifinals very briefly, ended up being multiple like big knockout matches. A little disappointing on the Mac front for as far as what his team put out there in the semifinals, but I felt like I put out one of my more competent weeks of the year, and Ethan put out his single best week of the season, which actually ended up coming back to bite him because his team refractorated in the finals. But had he not had like an incredible week, just a real good week, I would have been in the finals.
Yeah, that was a heavyweight match for sure. And it wasn't a horrible week, but for me, I just felt really confident with London and McBride and Amon-Ra and Metcalf coming into the late window. All had really good matchups, and
none of them can compare to the generational talent of Trevor Lawrence.
He outscored all of them, I think, or at least came close. And then Josh Allen just chose the wrong week to have his worst week. But that's fantasy for you.
Yeah.
That's fantasy.
Now, I've got two hands on the wheel, so I can't look this up, but I think it was Josh Allen's worst week of the season by a good margin.
Not even close. He had 7 points, and I think maybe second was over double that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a season well fought to my co-host and fellow semifinal exit team, owner, to Mac White. Your matchup was well fought, but ultimately couldn't stand in the face of the juggernaut that was Will.
Correct. I will say the irony of my matchup were the two players who showed up for me were Saquon and Olave. Those are the two best players I had that week. Also happened to be the two players I got from Will. So without those trades with Will, I very well could have scored
100 points.
70, 80 points.
Yeah.
Probably more than that. But
it's a pretty clean sweep by Will if he holds on to those two guys. But it's not like Pickens had a bad week.
Pickens was good.
And Will went all in on getting the 10th pick back.
Yep.
So, again, congrats to Will. I will say, I will say there was a little shuffling before the season between George Pickens, Michael Pittman Jr., and Chris Olave. And if I had played my cards a little better, I would have ended up with Chris Olave, and that would have actually won me my matchup with Ethan. It doesn't ultimately do anything for me in my matchup with Will. Still would have lost. It turns out our title holder was inevitable this season. However, could have made it there. So kicking myself a little bit on that front. But Chris Olave had a bizarrely elite season.
It's about as best case scenario as you possibly could have imagined. We'll save this conversation for another day, but I'm curious where people would put him in a dynasty format, like going forward, where you'd have him,
like a dynasty startup or draft.
Yeah, dynasty rankings, like what kind of conversation he's in, because he's still at least 25 years old. And he's coming off his best season, and the Saints look competent. So
the Saints look as competent as they have since Drew Brees is retired. I'll give you that.
That's a bold take. We sure?
I mean, what have they done since Drew Brees is retired?
That was bad. It was before Derek Carr.
I think it was
Jameis Winston.
I think there was a legit. It was Jameis Winston with 4 or 5 legit starts from Taysom Hill.
Yeah, I think. Well, I've just been a Kamara owner for so long, so Kamara's been the guy for much of that time, and he's been great.
Yeah.
So I guess from a passing offense perspective, maybe it's different, but it's crazy how quickly we forget.
Yeah.
How things are.
Yeah, hand waving Alvin Kamara, borderline Hall of Famer. But yeah. So as far as the semifinals go, climactic, heavyweight fight. The finals was a bit of a whimper at the end, though.
I'd have to go back and look, but I feel like that has to be in consideration for the most,
underwhelming.
Just, it was never, I mean, I guess when the day started on Sunday, maybe it was just, just kind of a wet fart to end the year.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure Will doesn't feel that way, nor should he. Not a lot of drama.
No, and if you're going to win a finals, that's kind of the way you want to do it, where it's just man, my opponent just did not come to play this week, and I don't really have to sweat this.
I mean, if you're winning either way, wouldn't you want the euphoria of something?
Well, sure, if you can promise me a win regardless.
Sure,
but
yeah, it's nice.
by mid-Sunday, he's, sipping a martini going, I am the champion.
Knowing the mental state of Will during this finals run, I doubt he was ever sipping them. I'm sure he was.
That's probably true.
Monday night, he's like, they're gonna announce something. It's time. I haven't won yet.
Yeah. I will say I do remember multiple good game Ethans in submission on Thursday night, which is really funny in retrospect.
I think he said good game Mac in the first quarter of the Monday night game when I needed 70 more points.
Yeah, it was something. But no one can take this away from him. And I said in our most recent podcast, there's a feel-good story for 3 out of 4 of these teams, and a different kind of story should Mac have won it all. But the story for Will is there's been few teams who have been as scrutinized as him, where it comes to roster construction, trade decisions, all this different kind of stuff. And he gets to kind of sit at the top of the pyramid for at least a year and go, I was right.
And he managed to also, every single other contender emptied the coffers, and he somehow put more in the coffers.
He sold assets.
Oh, man. It's
kind of crazy. But, no one can take this away from him, and he's going to have a trophy that may or may not end up on that coffee table for a year to prove it.
How many selfies do you think we get with the trophy from Will?
I think it would be the first time I ever got a selfie from Will, so I'm going to guess.
Oh, there are plenty of Will selfies out there.
I know they exist, he just doesn't send them to me.
Oh, Will, come on.
Will.
Be nice. Send us selfies.
I'm doing what I can.
Selfies.
Man, I text you all the time, mostly about Chase Brown, but I text you all the time. Not one selfie?
If you send him a selfie, it might end up in my living room for the next year.
Yeah. That is a great transition back. because we failed to get a podcast out for the finals, where we actually might have picked different players or different owners.
We would have had to do it like random, right?
We
Or
would have.
like
It would have had to be blind.
simultaneous. Yeah.
Or it would have been me announcing mine, and then you have to take.
I'm sure
the
you would have just
alternative,
gone Will, right? You just would have gone Will. I was thinking about going Ethan, just thinking you'd go Will.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't put a ton of thought into it, and was going to decide the day we did the podcast, which never ended up happening. I like to think I would have gone Will.
He was favored. He was favored by
Well, he
about
was
10.
favored, but also like Ethan's team coming off of like actually the best week of this season.
Do you care about that? Like, do you
It's
discount a team the next week?
I think it's been really consistent with my teams, so I factor it in. There may be no evidence to support that, but I feel like every time I have like John's team scored 180, 200, which, not overly common, but like every time it does happen, it's like my next week I'm going to be lucky to get past 110. So, yes and no, but it's kind of a moot point, though, in the grand scheme. We didn't pick. You were a game down.
Yes. John
Here we
wins
are.
by default. It's his favorite way to win.
Technical knockout.
Technical knockout.
So we are going to be putting up a picture of something in Mac's house that he recently purchased. I do have to get it approved with his wife, which may or may not just be her showing something to Mac and saying, "Are you okay with this?"
Yeah.
But I will be running it by Shelby before I put anything up in his home.
Yeah. And I'd rather not tell her that this outcome could have been avoided by me simply not being lazy.
The truth of the matter is, we know with certainty Shelby has no interest in listening to this podcast. So we can tell her that Mac lost by like 12, and there was just nothing he could have done about it, instead of we didn't record 2 episodes that could have changed this outcome.
Yes.
Which is also what I'll be telling my wife, is I absolutely dominated this, and therefore I'm going to drop $100 on a canvas to put up in my friend's house.
I do enjoy the fact that me losing means I did not have to spend $100.
Well, this season, keep the pod going. You got to put something up in my house.
I assume
you got to foot the bill.
I assume in the future we're going to be doing a new thing.
Maybe. We'll see. I could just put one of my wedding pictures up that I eventually want to hang in my own home.
I assume that's going to be what it ends up being.
So that I can get my own canvas back, and then we're in a good spot. But
I mean, you've said that all along. That's what you'll do. I don't know. It wouldn't shock me if you did something more creative.
who's that enormous dude that people kept sending me fake links to? With the very well endowed.
I do not think that will pass the Shelby
Yeah, I don't think
test.
that'll pass the Shelby test, but I could put it waist up, and then, like,
I
you'll
still
know.
don't think that will pass
You'll
the Shelby.
know. Yeah, probably not. But
I don't know. I doubt she knows it. She probably will not get the reference.
my guess right now is I'll probably end up giving you one of my wedding pictures, and that'll hang in your house for a year, and then I'll get it back, and I get to hang my own wedding picture in my own home. But if you have any ideas of what you want hanging up in Mac's household that might be funny, shoot them my way. Why not?
Oh, you know what you should do?
Yeah, hit me with it.
You should screenshot my... I shouldn't even tell you this. You could screenshot, like, my matchup with Will. Because that was not a fun day.
Just an enormous canvas. Yeah.
You could do something like that. That's fun.
Yeah. I have some fun ideas, but at the end of the day, how much money do I really want to put down on something that's going to hang in your house for a year that I might want to throw away?
Yeah.
So, again, if you have any ideas, shoot them my way. That's our recap of the semifinals and the finals for the ODL playoffs. Cannot say it enough times. Congratulations to Will on a well-won season. Congratulations to Ethan for overcoming the odds that you would go 1-13 and instead ending up in the semifinals ending up in the finals and being our semifinalist for the 2025 season. And congratulations to my co-host for another great dominant year. Congratulations to me for winning my first playoff game.
Congrats.
And to all involved, best of luck in your 2026 season. We're going to go ahead and transition to talking about what 2026 is going to look like.
I have one more statement.
Yeah, hit me with it.
And let this fantasy football playoffs be a lesson to us all that you never freaking know what's going to happen in the playoffs.
That's true.
It's like, oh, it's going to be you, and it's going to be Matt, and it's going to be all these people, my team sucks. People complain. Sorry, just little rant time, but we see this all the time where it's like, all you got to do is get to the playoffs, and anything can happen. And that's what happened.
I will say the 2011 Giants are a little bit more common in fantasy football than they are in real football, where all you got to do is get in the dance, and you could be going home with the prom queen.
Yeah.
So, don't ever discount your team. I mean, my entire roster construction is based around the idea of, like, yeah, the bye weeks are going to suck, and that's the majority of the regular season. But if I get into the finals, like, I'm putting myself in a really good position to win almost any matchup, assuming health.
Yeah. And what sucks is your team did come through, and just someone's...
Yeah, Ethan had an otherworldly week, and that was it.
Yeah. All right, yeah, let's transition into next year.
Yeah, let's talk about some rule changes.
A lot of rule changes this year. Was this our most successful rule change, off-season discussion in a sense of both number of things passed as well as just the organization and the civility of it, or the politeness of it?
I think that we probably, as far as like the crossroads of civility plus actually passing rule changes, this is probably our number one by a lot.
Yeah.
We've had more civil off seasons where we've passed 0 rule changes. And we've had other off seasons where I think we've had more fruitful discussions that were not fun to remember in retrospect for all parties involved. So I think as far as like the crossroads of the two, yeah, we definitely had our most fruitful off season.
Well, and we had like the thing is two of the issues that we voted on this off season were issues in which we have had
pretty heated
conversations about those issues specifically.
Yeah. We'll get into it.
So do you want to go through each of the proposals?
Let's go through them in the order that they were voted on.
Yes. So, Proposal 1 was from Caleb. And Proposal 1 is, I'm finding it right now. John told me to look it up first.
I told him before we started, look these up because I don't want there to be an awkward pause.
I did, and then my phone forgot to do it again. All right. So Proposal 1 was changing the voting language from 8 votes in favor of a major change and 6 votes in favor of a minor to 3 votes against a major and 5 votes against a minor. Effective immediately, this was a major change. And let's see. It was unanimous.
Yeah.
Everyone voted yes.
I think this is one of those where for the people who knew what this meant, it was a wanted change. And for the people who are like, this is kind of arbitrary language, why not just vote yes? Like, why gunk up the process?
Yeah.
So, I felt like this was, we had an interesting conversation this year. Let's just cards on the table. We got a new co-owner, and we entered this interesting conversation of like, well, we need a certain number of votes to pass it, but does Adrian get a vote on his own team? And that kind of brought up this topic of like, well, is it 8 votes in favor of something or 3 votes against something? And then Adrian just doesn't get a vote where it comes to if he's going to get a co-owner. And that became something where it was maybe too unwanted of a gray area. And this rectifies that.
Yeah.
Makes it a little bit more clear language in case we need to have a vote on something where one league member explicitly shouldn't have a vote.
Yeah, and I also think it's been really hard to pass things. And I think it's been a little too difficult to pass things. We wanted it to be difficult to pass things, so there weren't a lot of sudden changes. But I think this is a very minor shift in the way of making things a little easier to pass, in the sense that if somebody chooses to abstain...
Well, I think the abstention rule is later.
No, this was part of it.
Okay.
This essentially said, well, this is inherent in it, because if somebody doesn't vote, it's not a vote against, which is the only way that, like, this rule changed it for needing votes for to pass it to needing votes against
to shoot it down. Yeah.
So if you abstain, it's essentially a yes vote.
I said it in the group chat at the time. I think it's really funny, given some of the group chat fights we've had. But formally, silence is compliance.
Yes.
Yes.
Normally, let's use it in a different context.
Yes, but yeah, we just need 3 votes to shoot something down now. Abstention is essentially a cosign, and we do have multiple league owners who say, I'm just going to abstain because I don't care and I appreciate the chaos. So, for those in favor of more rule changes, congratulations, things just became easier to pass. For those in favor of more stability, you better start voting no if you don't want something, because your abstention formally doesn't mean abstention.
All right, so Proposal 2, I suspect this will produce some fruitful discussion between you and me, because I don't understand your position whatsoever, so I'm excited to learn. But it is regarding the trade deadline. So Caleb proposed to move the trade deadline up. I don't know exactly how many weeks, but he proposed to move it up to a week after the NFL trade deadline. Currently, I believe it's week 11, week 10 that we have it in ODL.
I honestly couldn't tell you.
I would say there's probably 3 or 4 weeks left in the regular season. I think 3. So maybe week 11. And I think, so that would probably end up moving it up 2 or 3 weeks, according to this proposal. I knew that there were a lot of people who probably didn't want to move it up. I was very shocked to find out there were people who wanted to abolish it altogether. That was quite a revelation to me.
Well, I'm not in favor of abolishing the trade deadline altogether.
I said playoffs.
I said moratorium for the playoffs, and I think it'd probably be wise to do like maybe a week or 2 before that. I'm open to like that conversation. But I mean, frankly, one of the most interesting parts of fantasy football is trading, and I think in a dynasty format, the haves and the have-nots, or guys, I guess I should say the have-nots benefit more from desperation than the haves do. And so, in an attempt to create greater parity, I would rather see more like desperate trades, where it's like Matt freaking out that he's one piece away the entire season, he's getting closer to the playoffs, and all of a sudden his his bye is slipping away, and so he's got to do something, and he doesn't know what to do, and so he's going to make a desperate trade of like 3 first-round picks for this guy, as opposed to just sitting on his hands and going, well, the trade deadline was 2 weeks ago, so I guess there's nothing I can do. So, I'm in favor of fewer restrictions. I'm in favor of more parity. I'm in favor of trades being more plentiful in the league, and so I would vote personally to move the trade deadline backwards, if anything, and not up. I'm curious about your position of you want more restrictions and less freedom for owners.
So I think the trade deadline exists as a very, in fantasy football especially, as a very interesting strategy. Like, it's a very interesting strategic problem, because you having it earlier makes you have to make a decision. Like, the earlier you have it, the less information you have in order to make a decision on whether you are a buyer or a seller.
Sure.
And if you're neither one, you probably lose. Right?
Okay.
Like, if you don't do anything, if you sit on your hands and don't do anything, you're probably a loser. Like, you probably want to be a buyer or seller. And that's just the nature of a dynasty football league or a dynasty fantasy league. Like, you're either in and you're going for it, or you're not, and you're
Right, you're not
in the cupboard for next year, and you're going to be awesome. Next you're going to improve your situation for future years. And I think having to make that decision is really interesting.
Yeah.
And very intriguing. And I think if you wait, you push it back to a week before the playoffs, well, that
So you're more in favor of forcing people to pick a lane sooner?
I think forcing people to pick a lane sooner is incredibly interesting, and you still get the element of somebody like Matt panicking, because he's like, the trade deadline's coming up. I know I'm a contender. I have to do everything I can to give myself the best chance to win.
Sure.
And I mean, I guess if there are injuries, you can't really react to it.
Sure.
That is true, but I don't I don't know. I think you should kind of cover all your bases before the trade deadline. I think one of the most interesting parts about being in a dynasty league, like one of the most interesting parts, is that decision halfway to 2/3 of the way through the year, where you have to go, okay, what am I?
What am I?
What am I? And I think without that decision, if that decision's made for you, where you get to wait until literally the week before the playoffs, because you'll already know by that point what you are, then it's like, well, then all the intrigue is out of it. Like I think like Caleb constantly flipping, and like I think there was a lot of like drama and a lot of like politicking this year leading up to the leading up to the deadline, because it's like, what is Will? What is Caleb? What is Evan? And we're holding each other's picks, and I just think that the teeth, like it's that there's not as much teeth to that if there's not a deadline, or if the deadline moves back.
Sure. I can hear that version of it. I'm just personally more in favor of like watching someone overreact to an injury right before the playoffs. In my opinion, I think that's more interesting and more favorable to the have-nots.
So I guess my question is, so in real NFL, they'll never do that, right? In real baseball, they'll never do that.
Well,
in real NBA, they'll never do that, right?
Sure, because those trade deadlines are like, trade deadlines are normally situated about 60% of the way through the season.
Right. I guess why is it okay in the real NFL? Like to me, the purpose it serves in real sports versus fantasy is the same.
I think, so I think in the real sports there's more of like a player aspect to it, where like not only is there the owner's will and desire of what's going to happen for their team, but there is like the players, like we saw with Jacoby Myers this year, where it was, hey, I don't want to be in Las Vegas anymore. I don't want to be here, and I'm a good player, and I should get to be somewhere else. And the Raiders just said, well, if you're good enough if you're this good, then we should be able to get something for you. We're not going to release you. We are going to force a trade. Or we're going to wait for a trade. And you get this piece of like, okay, Jacoby Myers could choose like the Micah Parsons route, or the Trent Williams route, or the countless other routes of like guys saying like, I will just hold out and refuse to play. And it's about finding what's best for the team and the player and satisfaction on all parties and all that. And I think the trade deadline exists halfway to 60% of the way through the season, so people can say like, okay, this is your situation. You're not going to magically like improve all of a sudden, like, oh, we can just hold on to Jacoby Myers the entire season and then like trade him at the last minute, and we still technically traded him and still technically got something out of him for him. No, like you have to find what's best for your team and what's best for the players and all of that well before the playoffs, so these dramatics don't continue. That's my vantage point on it.
Interesting. I don't know. I see it more of as a buyer-seller thing situation. Typically, I know there are human aspects to it where someone wants out, and I think too, I'm a bigger baseball fan than you.
Sure.
So I'm probably letting baseball and how baseball works probably enter my headspace as far as the trade deadline. Because in baseball, the trade deadline, like you'll see, like teams will just, like every expiring contract is out the door, and they'll just gut the roster, and then buyers will just get some big names. So I think I might be letting baseball kind of influence, but I just think like I understand the other perspective, I do, but I think you take away there's a big strategic piece of being a dynasty fantasy football owner and having to make that decision.
Sure. I think we're just on opposite sides of it. I don't think that like either side's necessarily unreasonable. It's just more, I want more freedom to operate my team as freely as I can for as long as I can, and you're more, hey, this pushes a more interesting version of the league. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I see how you see that.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
I think my biggest reason for wanting to move it up, based off of this past season, which I know that this past season was a little different than it's gone.
Yeah.
But my biggest reason for wanting to move it up was the trade deadline fell flat this year, wasn't interesting, and if it had been later, it also would have probably been even less interesting. And that's because everyone who was a contender shelled out all their picks, and everyone who was a seller sold everything that made sense to sell. So to me, moving it up made more sense because then, like, clearly we had enough time for everyone to make the moves they needed to make. So for me, like, I think putting a little pressure on the owners and putting a little pressure on the sellers and putting a little pressure on the buyers, like, to make that, I mean, once again, it's making it more interesting. But I guess this season, moving it back would have served no purpose.
Sure.
Moving it forward could have served a purpose if you are someone who is interested in making the trade deadline more interesting and more of a decision and more of a strategy issue.
Sure. I don't necessarily view, like, the trade deadline being boring, quote unquote, as an issue. Let me explain why. I think generally fantasy football tends to work a little bit closer to how the NBA operates, just because, like, there are smaller rosters, which means every individual player has a bigger outcome on, like, the game, and player movement is more prevalent, and draft picks are, like, you get to, like, the 5th pick, and it's like, man, this draft is over. And there's a lot of similarities between, like, how the NBA operates and how fantasy football operates. I remember in, like, 2019, 2020 or so, there was this incredible trade deadline where it was like Kevin Durant got moved, or James Harden got moved to the Nets, and then Tyrese Halliburton got moved to the Pacers, or maybe I'm conflating some of them, and then, like, all of these, like, every kind of huge trade that you could possibly want happened. Like, a young star got moved, a Hall of Famer in the middle of his prime got moved, a ton of picks got moved, and it was just like all of it happened in the course of, like, 2 days. And I remember just being glued to my phone when that was happening, being like, this is the greatest trade deadline I've ever seen, and, like, all this player movement, this is what's awesome about the NBA, and, like, there's a lot of intrigue going on. And then the next year, the trade deadline was awful. The next year, the trade deadline was just like 2 guys of any relevance got moved, and then everyone else just kind of held on to their stuff, and it sucked. I remember feeling cheated. I was like, this is not my NBA. My NBA is teams make stupid, impulsive decisions, and the fans win. And I feel like that's just kind of fantasy football. This year, the trade deadline didn't hit the way it should have. But if you look back at the aggregate of all the trades that happened, like, Bijan got moved, Saquon got moved twice, a ton of picks got traded around, Jonathan Taylor got traded, Malik Neighbors got traded. Like, a lot of really big, relevant, interesting trades happened. They just didn't happen on this specific day. Next year, the trade deadline might pop. The year after that, the trade deadline might pop. Just because the actual week, weekend, whatever you want to say, of the thing wasn't as awesome as it could have been or has been or whatever, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be that way every year. It means it's that way this year.
It's possible that it's just a one-year blip. It is. I'm curious if you'd agree with me. I think that if you move the trade deadline up, the same number of trades occur, they just are more concentrated in a shorter time period.
I don't think more trades happen. I think that there's probably a maximum within a certain quantity with certain teams. And, like, we saw one of the most interesting things happen this season with a trade deadline that some people are arguing was too late. And that was Caleb decided to go absolutely all in on this season and then reverse course like 3 weeks later. That is one of the strangest things from a macro perspective I've ever seen in our league. And it happened with the trade deadline exactly where it is.
Right, but that doesn't happen if you move it back.
I don't necessarily need to move it back, though.
Okay.
I just don't need to move it up.
But if you move it up, it might still happen. He just might make the moves earlier.
You see, I know Caleb says that he doesn't do that exact thing if he's allowed to wait. I think that's unprovable.
It might be unprovable. I guess for me, what drives in-season trades? To me, there's a right answer.
I think it's an overall trajectory for your team.
To me, what drives trades is the arms race.
Sure.
That's what drives trades.
Sure.
Like, if I feel like I'm first, if I feel like I have the best roster, Am I going to give up a first to go load up? Probably not. If I feel like I'm confidently first, probably not. If Matt goes out and makes a trade that makes his roster better significantly, and now I feel like at a minimum he's competing with me, what am I going to do?
Well, you gotta get
I'm going to shell out. And to me, like, I guess that's my whole thing is like, what drives trades is the arms race. And I think when you have a trade deadline, that adds pressure, and that adds a sense of urgency, and that adds a sense of stress to that, how that goes. And I just think, I don't know, it's probably pretty moot. I feel like we're probably going to have a lot of intrigue and a lot of arms race and a lot of, no matter when it is, it's probably just personal preference, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Which is what you've been saying, but...
Yeah, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer on this one, but if
I do.
presented the same option again of like stay the same, move back, move up, I'm probably somewhere between stay the same and move it back. Okay. You're pretty firmly move it up.
It's a mild... here's what it is. Like, in my perfect world, would it be 2 weeks earlier? Probably. But, like, the difference between where it is now and that versus where it is now and, like, getting rid of it, like, where you can't trade in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, you just, like, regular season's fair game. There's that, I don't want that at all. Like, I would be, like...
Sure.
There'd be a hill that I'd be fighting pretty hard on. But,
sure.
But I'm okay with not moving it up. Like, it's fine where it is now. I think this 1 year was kind of a blip as far as everyone just running out of assets. I'm not sure why it happened, but I don't know.
Sure. All right, we've gotten through 2 out of 11 rule changes.
That one probably is the longest, I would think. Proposal 3, moving ODL from ESPN to Sleeper. This was voted yes by 3 people, and it was voted down by 6.
Yeah, this is one of those, and we're going to get to a couple others down the road. It comes up every year. I don't personally understand it. I think it's really driven by like the draft pick trading piece.
Well, it's driven by 2 individuals who think Sleeper's better.
Okay. I'm never going to vote yes for this. It seems like no one's going to vote yes on this. So,
well, 3 people are voting yes.
It can be pitched every year, but like, it could also stop, and I don't think anyone's gonna, like, I don't think the outcome's gonna change. Like, I don't want to migrate the league. I like the ESPN app better. I think, I'm probably gonna get some death threats for this one, but like, I think the spreadsheet makes it more fun.
I don't think you'll get death threats from anyone about that.
The spreadsheet is incredible.
I don't think it is a draft pick trading thing. I think it's a format. I think it's an interface thing.
Yeah, I much prefer ESPN's, but ESPN also kind of keeps making theirs more like Sleeper. So
this is going to sound silly. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's starting to get moot, and then at a certain point, it's like, well, it's migrated. It's like, what's the point? ESPN keeps making themselves more like Sleeper.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. Honestly, I was sort of joking, but I feel like ESPN just buys them.
Eventually?
I think they just do.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, I just feel like ESPN has put a lot of resources, a lot of money, and a lot of effort into their app. Like, they clearly have. Like, this, whether you like it or not, like, they keep updating it. They've updated it. I think fantasy football, I don't know if they make money off of it, but, like, they push it, right? Like, they have a whole staff of people that they pay to do this. Like, they lost Matthew Berry, but, like, they're investing into it because people like it.
Yeah.
And Sleeper is actively taking away users from their platform.
Yeah.
And I mean, how hard would it be for Disney just to say, yeah, we want that app, and we're just going to take it away, we're just going to buy it? To me, it wouldn't shock me at all if Sleeper ends up...
Yeah, how hard would it be for a Fortune 10 company to buy a fantasy football app?
Yeah, I don't even know who owns Sleeper, but... Yeah.
You got to imagine that can't be more than like a $5 or $6 million acquisition for a company worth trillions.
Yeah. Now, this is going to sound silly, and maybe there's an easy fix for this I'm just not aware of. I don't like Sleeper because it's so dark. I feel like I can't see things. Like, I don't like how dark it is. Do they have a light mode?
It's funny. I've actually had that exact same thought, but I was like, this is so stupid.
I feel
I'm not
so
going to bring it up.
I feel so stupid saying it, but that's how I feel. I feel like I'm playing fantasy football in the dark. I feel like it's like I have to use I don't know. It's just a weird mental thing.
Yeah.
And the ESPN's is so bright.
Yeah,
so light, and I can see things.
The light versus the dark. Come to the light, people. All right. For the sake of getting through all these, we're going to move past it.
Oh, boo. Okay, we can.
We've said everything relevant.
All right,
already.
screw sleeper. That's.
Stop proposing the rule change.
He's going to every year.
I'm aware.
All right, proposal 4. Changing passing touchdowns to 5 points.
You know, it's interesting. Someone reached out to me on this one and said, John, why would you be against this rule? You have Joe Burrow, and this would, maybe affect you more than anyone, benefit you more than anyone else. I'm not voting on these rules based on how my roster is currently constructed. I'm voting on these rules based on what I think is healthiest for the league.
Good for you, John.
And
Take the high road.
I deserve pats on the back for that perspective.
Why don't you tell us who said that to you?
I don't want to do that because that's throwing someone under the bus, and I didn't ask their permission to use their name before this.
Okay.
So if that individual wants to reveal themselves, great. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but I'm also, in case it is a big deal, I'm not going to throw them under the bus. Anyways, I just feel like that's how we should be voting, is not necessarily what's in the best we're going to get to the Superflex conversation in a bit, but I don't think I should be voting on Superflex based on we don't know how we're going to implement this and I have 2 QBs I like, therefore I'm going to vote yes. I think you should be voting on Superflex based on if you think that's a better format for you. Yes, Joe Burrow throws a lot of passing touchdowns and he runs none in, but at the same time it's the quarterback position is already I don't know if that's going to move the needle a ton on how it's valued, and they already score enough. So I don't necessarily feel the need to adjust their scoring. I think 4 for a passing touchdown is a fine number. So
yeah, I don't know. I was pretty indifferent on this one. I don't even remember how I voted. How did I vote? I voted no. No, I didn't even vote. I did not vote. I was the only person
who got shot down before you could vote.
Yeah, I was this one I did not know how to vote for. I don't know. I'm indifferent, but I also don't want people to feel like the rule change hurts them when they didn't have. I don't know. I'm indifferent. I would have been fine with it. But,
what were the votes on that one?
5 downvoted, 4 upvoted, so it would have needed a lot more.
It would have needed quite a bit of help.
Tyler, Matt, Evan, and Caleb all voted up. Oh, I missed one because one wasn't numbered. There also was adding a play the median matchup.
Oh, I liked that one.
Yeah.
I've been a proponent of this, maybe not formally presenting a rule, but I like this one in the sense of the best example of this is actually something I benefited from. But the first year I made the playoffs, my team was 8th or 9th in scoring, but they kept playing the worst scoring team every week. So I ended up 9-5 or something like that. And even I, at the time, was this is bullshit. This should not be happening. And people, I don't know if you remember this, people were getting actively upset that I was winning. And it's guys, I can't make this happen. I'm just putting out my best lineup every week, and it happens to keep winning when it shouldn't.
Same thing happened with Dallas last year.
Yeah.
Dallas was I don't even want to win.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a good draft pick. And I think that was a year where I was openly saying, my roster sucks. For the, long-term health of my team, I want to be in the lottery to get, a better player to actually be competitive. And I'm just going to, I'm setting myself up to just lose in the first round, which is what happened. And so, I like play the median because it's more of hey, you're not getting screwed by the random head-to-head of this all. If you're the 4th best scoring team and you play the 1st best scoring team, you still get a win. But it still keeps that head-to-head in a way. So I was for that. Obviously, it didn't pass, but
it was actually, I was surprised how much it was downvoted. It was 7 downvotes, 2 upvotes. Once again, I did not vote.
Oh, Mac.
I'm against this one, though. I really am. And I'll tell you why. Well, one, I don't know. Maybe this is me being a fantasy football purist, but I sort of I think that there's a sort of a charm and a sort of goofy, sort of weird edge in fantasy football where it's you could look at the standings and go well, that team sucks. He's 7-4. I think that's funny. I know it sucks when it happens to you, but I just feel that's fantasy football and it's fun. And I think one thing our league struggled. I think one thing that is one of the weaknesses in our league is that going into any season, it's pretty darn easy to predict. At least we have a good sense of it, of who is going to be in the playoffs and who is not. Part of that is because the difference in the rosters, and then also we know the motivations of teams. But I think if you add the median, that makes that even more obvious, and there will be even fewer surprises as far as where teams end up.
Sure.
And I think the more surprises that we have in our league as far as who finishes where, the better.
The more parity,
Because
the better.
I think it's pretty. It's not fun to be in a league where it's like, we already feel like we know who the. I mean,
yeah. We know 5 of the playoff teams before every season starts.
yeah, and I think that's what made this season, I think, more fun specifically was.
Our reigning champion lost.
There were only 2 teams that were clear, like out, rather than there being like.
Yeah.
I think the year before there were 5. There were 5 teams that wanted to be out. This year there were 2. So I don't know. I mean, it's not a huge deal, but I guess I kind of like the quirkiness that comes with the luck factor that can be in it with the records. And then I like the more surprises, I guess. I don't know, which is weird, but.
Yeah, I can get behind that. I hear what you're saying. I hadn't thought about it up until this point, but the 4 teams that missed the playoffs this year were the 2 that everyone knew would miss before the season started, and then the finals matchup from last year.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
And so it is an interesting, I don't know if anyone would have looked at Caleb and Evan's teams last year and been like, these are clearly the 2 best teams in the league, but they are the teams that made the finals, and Evans won. And so to see both of them make such a hard pivot for I'm going to get all these draft picks, and I'm going to be in the lottery, and I'm going to blah, 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 is interesting.
Yeah. Oh, if you actually wanted to get a good sense of where we thought about these teams, go back and listen to our episode where I gave the playoff odds. A lot of them were pretty favorable odds to make it, and 2 of those teams didn't.
Yeah.
So. All right, next is the dues. We've talked about this. I don't think we really need to talk about it more.
It's been pretty well hashed out. I just think that we don't need more incentive to care than these teams already have. That's clearly not true league-wide, but we ultimately voted down dues, right?
We did. Dues are disbanded. That's the exact words. I thought there'd be less pushback from this, and there was actual pushback, and that's okay. I was surprised.
I think healthy discussion happened, and we landed where we landed.
Next is the lottery, and actually, I'm going to propose that we actually maybe talk about this more in a future episode.
Yeah,
since we have the draft coming up.
There's a lot of thoughts on both ends for us on this one, and let's kick this one to another week.
All right, sounds good. The next proposition was 3rd seed gets the preference of opponent between the 5th and 6th seed in the first round. So they choose who they play in the first round, 3rd seed. And then the 1st seed gets the preference
between those
of the 2
matchups,
winners. Yeah. This one passed.
Yeah.
This was a major that passed. It was unanimous.
This is, in my opinion, one of those rules that if people had thought about it when we were setting things up would have been a no-brainer. And
it's just not a default thing.
Yeah, we just didn't think about it as of course you should do this. But once, I don't even remember how it came into our purview, but once we thought about it, it was why would we not do this?
Didn't it just kind of come up organically in one of our pods?
I think it was something that one of us had maybe seen somewhere else, and we were why don't we do this?
I think actually I said I wish I was playing this person, and I wish as the 1 seed I got the right to choose.
However it came to be, it's just one of those that makes complete sense. And obviously, unanimous speaks for itself.
Yeah, it's awesome. All right, the next one was Superflex. If we want to also push this out,
let's chat on this one. Let's chat on this one. So I'm pretty strongly against Superflex, not because I think it's a worse format. I do think it's a worse format. I think single quarterback is better. But when we started the league, I was staunchly anti-Superflex. I'm not that anymore. I've mellowed on that take. I'm staunchly against it because there is no good way to implement it. I think that there are ways that are better than others. I don't even think the ways that we've talked about are necessarily bad. But the only fair way to implement Superflex is when you set the league up and do your Dynasty inaugural draft. And since that's not what happened, I'm going to vote against it every time.
So you have two, two sides of your argument. There's two pieces of your argument. One is which one is objectively better when you're setting up a league, and then second is how to implement it, or whether you do implement it once the league is going. The second piece I fully agree with. I understand it. That was my hesitation. I liked the idea that Evan came up with, but I was scared. I felt like there could be some potential pitfalls that we hadn't addressed or hadn't thought about that could end up being problematic. And obviously, it probably isn't a big surprise to you that I tried to push this out to talk about it in the future pod, because I obviously didn't really want to talk about it or think about it when it was up to me to vote either. But the first part of the argument is where what makes a one quarterback league better to you in a dynasty format? Like, what makes it better if you're starting a league from scratch?
So from a dynasty perspective, dynasties in and of themselves are fun. I think they're a little too easy to just create when we're talking about the by far longest lived position. And then throwing a second one on there. And then also from the perspective of, like, there's 32 starting quarterbacks. When we're talking about, okay, let's talk about, like, quarterbacks and running backs compared to each other. Running backs are pretty one good one per team, generally. Every now and then you find, like, I don't know, an Ingram-Kamara situation where it's like, hey, this team had two starting running backs that were both, like, actually good. But if you're in a pinch, you can start a team's 33% of the word share guy, and it's not going to be an awesome week, but it's not going to be a 0 week. It's pretty easy to force someone into you can't start two quarterbacks.
Well, it's super flex, so you can start one of your stud wide receivers.
You can, but it sucks. Super flex just means start two quarterbacks unless you get boned.
John, I am disappointed in you, and I'll tell you why. You had this view 6 years ago when we started the league, which was when you have a super flex and so much value is wrapped up in one position, we are opening ourselves up to the potential for someone to build a unbeatable force because they have two awesome quarterbacks. Am I understanding correctly?
I think
that's a fear of yours.
Well, it contributes to the idea that dynasties become significantly easier to build.
I would think that after seeing how the ODL has gone, because I think the way we've built the league, it's not a super flex, so quarterbacks have much less value.
Yeah.
It's a dynasty league, so running backs have inherently less value because their careers are shorter, and you only actually have to start two in our league.
Right.
And it's full PPR, so if you're starting flexes, wide receivers are going to carry more value because they get more catches.
Sure.
So every single rule change we've made in this league has benefited wide receivers, right? You start 3 of them, you can start 5, it's full PPR, and wide receivers have longer careers.
Sure.
So what we've done is we've essentially made wide receivers as important as the quarterback position would be in a super flex league. And you have assembled this quote, like, infinity, the infinity stones, like all these incredibly, like the crown jewels of the wide receiver position. And obviously we've talked about how you've had a good team, but you haven't even gotten not one title. And I think the idea that a super flex would cause, the potential for someone to just get 2 great quarterbacks, I guess too, just don't let that. I don't know. It's just like you shouldn't let that happen. I mean, if somebody's drafting first, they take Josh Allen, and then they don't draft again until 20. If you're drafting correctly for a super flex, then I don't know. It's really hard for me to understand that viewpoint.
I just think that, again, we would be talking about adding more longevity pieces that can stack on top of each other and create this situation. So, like, I would be fearful of, a team that has a Josh Allen or a Lamar Jackson or a Patrick Mahomes, you name a really high-end fantasy quarterback. And then you get into a draft where it's like, hey, I'm picking, let's say you're in the 2023 draft or 2024 draft, and you're picking like 8th, and it's like, okay, well, this draft's kind of loaded. I guess I'll take Drake May because he went in the 4th round of ours. Like at the time, people were not insanely high on him.
I think he probably would have gone higher. He might have gone higher than 8th.
Maybe.
But if you don't take Drake May at 8, you're not taking Brian Thomas. You're not taking...
But then, again, it's just too easy, in my opinion, to have a great quarterback and then luck into another top 5-ish quarterback. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, I don't have to worry about this situation for the next X amount of time.
So we've seen a lot of teams luck into great quarterbacks in our league. But the number one reason why we've seen so many teams luck into great quarterbacks...
They go crazy late. I get that.
Is because they don't carry value. So it's like, oh, sure, I'll throw in Jaden Daniels. Oh, sure, I'll throw in Jordan Love. But though you don't... I mean, people still will luck into it. But, like, young quarterbacks with think about, like, if Cam Ward... If we're in a Dynasty league... If we're in a Superflex league, and you call Jacob Hendricks, you call the farm about Cam Ward. He says, that'll be like 2 firsts. Like, Cam Ward all of a sudden, like, you don't, it's really hard to luck into guys if they carry, like, how hard is it to luck into not generational, how hard is it to luck into a top 10 wide receiver in our league? It's incredibly difficult, right?
I hear that. I really do hear that. And at the same time, like, we're talking about, I get that this was a disappointing season for him, but, like, lucking into a top 10 receiver, Brian Thomas went 9th. That's just a few people making a bad decision on top of each other, and all of a sudden someone is picking, a guy who was a top 10 receiver as a rookie. I don't know. In my opinion, we've seen how dominant receivers can be with longevity at their position. I don't want to stack on top of that someone who A, has the capacity to score even more, and B, plays twice as long.
I understand those concerns. I just think the alternative to that is the quarterback position basically carrying very little value at all. And that's lame.
I think I'm not even totally disagreeing with that, but I don't think there's a great way to fix it. And I think we have put ourselves in a position where it is what it is, and it just cannot be correctly fixed. So
I agree with that fixing it now is problematic. I agree with that.
So, all right, we have arrived at our destination, so we are going to rapid fire through the remainder of the
I actually think there's just one more.
Okay.
Which is the trophy, the trophy being paid for by last place. And we actually don't have a resolution on that one, so maybe we cover that once we know what's going to happen?
Yeah, give me your quick hitter. What's your thought?
Well, I've already made it very clear in the chat, I think. I mean, I'm not going to say anything different than what I've already said, which is, I don't know why this is an issue. It's $20 a year.
Yeah.
I just think trophies should be fun. I love the idea of a last place punishment, but I think forcing last place to pay $20 when they already, like, okay, I don't know. It's just, like, lame, and I don't know. I think it's lame to make someone pay for it. And I'm not trying to, like, be high and mighty and take the high road. I just feel like I don't want this to be an issue for anyone, because clearly it has been an issue for people paying for shipping and being told they have to pay for shipping.
Yeah.
And I think that's caused a lot of issues for people, and I get it. Like, I'm pretty, like, money's whatever. Like, I'm just whatever. So to me, it's a much easier solution to just, like,
if you have the trophy, ship it.
If you have the trophy, ship it, and I was just going to say I'll just pay for shipping, and anyone who wants to chip in $2, great. I will accept that. Thank you. But I don't know. I don't like the idea of forcing someone to pay for it. I get it's not really that big a deal, but I've seen that it has been a big deal for some people, and I don't want to have that fight. I don't want to fight that fight.
Yeah, not to make it too macro, because I don't know if I've shared my thoughts on this. Money is a weird thing to talk about, and if someone is pushing back really hard on $20, I don't want to dig into why.
Yeah.
So, I'm kind of in the Matt camp on this one. If ever there's a place where people are like, hey, I'm in a tough spot, I don't really want to pay for shipping, or paying for shipping puts me in a weird spot, text me, I'll pay for shipping. Like, it just cannot be this big of a deal.
Yeah, and I don't know, but I mean, everyone was disagreeing with me, so I don't know.
I think that the capacity for this to get bad and weird in a way that I don't want it to, on digging for why last place paying $20 is such a big deal, I don't want to open that can of worms.
No. I'll just... Yeah.
All right, those are the rule changes for this year, as we know them. I have been John. I will remain John. I'm not planning on changing my name. So, Mac, do you have anything left for the people?
No, just excited for the draft. Excited for more draft coverage.
Huzzah.
Yes.
Huzzah. We're not stopping anytime soon, but podcasts will be less weekly moving forward. They may be...
periodic.
Yeah.
Please stop bothering us about them, even though...
We're trying our best.
We know you love it so much.
Fun disclaimer. We both work at a property tax firm, and turns out January through May is not a fun time to work at a property tax firm and have free time at the same time.
Yeah.
So we will do what we can, but if you could stop screaming at me, my wife is getting concerned. That's a joke.
Okay. Good one, John.
Thank you. All right. As always, may the best man win.